so many new pieces to this IU football team.
To me, that's going to set the tone on how you get ready for games on Saturday in the fall.
I would put that Indiana room up against anybody else in the conference, and that's something that we typically don't even come close to saying.
If you want to get total sickos committee about it, there's a position battle at long snapper too.
This is the Hoosier Huddle Podcast, part of the College Huddle Podcast Network.
Good evening and welcome to the Hoosier Huddle Podcast. I'm Sammy Jacobs, and along with me is Alex Compton. We're here to do After the Dust Settles on Indiana's 42-28 win over Maryland. Indiana moves to 5-0, 2-0 in the conference. First time they've been 5-0 since that magical 1967 season. Alex, great win for IU. I thought it put the program in a real good spotlight. You had a great fan showing in some bad weather, and a lot of questions were answered. People came in to this game. Maryland was the best opponent that IU had played. They were the best passing team. They had the best wide receiver. They had your arch nemesis, Billy Edwards, who got crushed a lot. So I'm sure that made you happy. And they answered the bell. And now they show up in the AP poll at 23, in the coaches poll at 24 this week, which is right around where I thought they'd be, in that 22 to 25 range, given what happened this weekend at the bottom of the top 25. And then you go to Northwestern next week. And what's your initial takeaways from yesterday's win?
Yeah, I think it's hard to complain when you're 5-0. I think there was definitely a level of sloppiness. You can maybe attribute it to the weather, better opponent, whatever you want to call it, especially on offense. Defense, I thought, for the most part, was outstanding again. But, yeah, can't really complain with 5-0. And that's kind of my short summary of the game. And we'll get into what we liked, what we didn't, what we saw, all that good stuff. But, yeah, you turned the ball over 4 times. Curtis Rourke throws his first interception of the season on kind of a deep arm punt. Maybe didn't see the safety. Either way, easy pick. And then his next throw was also intercepted on a third down to Keisha.
Yeah, I thought that first throw might have been affected by the wind. The wind was blowing north to south, and it was one of those just lofted throws that kind of, well, the guy was not open. He was double covered, but he overthrew him by 3 or 4 yards, which might have been carried by the wind. And then, that second interception, just, I don't think he cut the route off on time and sharp enough. So
so he throws picks on back-to-back throws, and I think IU teams in the past, you definitely would have seen totally different play calling, very conservative, go into a shell, don't let him screw up anymore. But instead, you kind of saw the opposite from IU. Shanahan dialed up great concepts, boundary kind of throws to get him back into rhythm, and ultimately went down the field on that 2-minute drill that only took 3 plays with that beautiful catch for a touchdown by Omar Cooper to end the first half. So that was a big story for me coming out of this game, and watching it again this morning. That's why we do it. That's why we do this podcast on Sundays. Let it sink in, let it digest, watch it again if you need to. But yeah, I thought the first half on offense was really sloppy. Obviously, the turnovers are a big part of that, but that drive to end the half that resulted in the touchdown to Cooper, from there, it kind of really trended upwards. So defense was terrific. Sammy, I think you had a stat on the broadcast, but after each of IU's 4 turnovers on offense, the defense then came out on the field and did not give up a first down on any of those plays. So you want to talk about battling back. You want to talk about being relentless and being mentally tough like we've been clamoring for. That's a huge sign right there. Defense buckles up, makes them go 3 and out after 4 turnovers.
Yeah, for a team that's 5-0 and has not trailed for 1 second this year, adversity has been hard to find. And if you want to call a game where you again never trailed, the adversity there was you turned the ball over 4 times and you responded in that way. 0 first downs, and you let up -9 yards. They turned it to -8 after the game, but I'm not going to tell anybody that. -9 yards, which is it's just a wild stat. That's the only way I could describe it. Just you don't see that. It's one thing not to let up any points. It's another thing not to let up a yard. After that, I thought I thought the field affected the defense, though. I thought they slipped a couple of times or a couple passes where the defender slipped and stuff like that. So it was a wet track. Um, the referee sets a great pick on Hemby's run, which probably doesn't go for a 75-yard touchdown. It might go for 15 or 20. But that's just an unfortunate break. And then you had the other touchdown is one that bounces off of 4 guys, and the guy makes a great diving catch. And then you got beat by one touchdown by a Prather, just a great throw from Edwards, and he just burned ponds. And then the last one to Hemby was in garbage time. So they responded well. Thought defensive line, James Carpenter doesn't get enough credit. He was an absolute dog on Saturday. 2 sacks. Those interior linemen, they don't show up in the box score all that often. At least not with like Aiden Fisher's numbers with 12 tackles. So he had 2 sacks all over the field. Billy Edwards got pounded. CJ West got him. Linnell Carr was in the backfield all day. You had Jalen Walker and Aiden Fisher combined on a sack. And, overall, that defense, yeah, they struggled in the pass a little bit, but you were going up against number 1 passing team in the Big Ten. And you're going to struggle, especially with the wet field and trying to respond and react to moves that receivers are making. And Maryland made a lot of ridiculous catches yesterday.
Yeah, cheek. One cheek equals 1 foot. He had the cheek down inbounds on that one. So
how about is it when your toe hits, the heel has to hit, or if your heel hit because the half that cheek was out of bounds.
It was left cheek down first. I guess that's why you do squats or whatever.
I guess.
Yeah,
so
yeah, we got the big one though. The overturn on that deep ball to Prather. Was a great ruled on the field touchdown, but elbow down just before the knee, I think it was. So you go 50-50 on the reviews. I think you won the review you really needed there, because that would have made it a little dicier.
That cuts it to a 1-score game, and instead they miss a 4th down, and IU goes and scores to make it a 3-score game. And then I thought that the cherry on top was the total. As Nate called it, the sad punt, the sad punt, the tap out punt, where it's like, whatever, dude. We're gonna need, so we're gonna put in the second team punt. After they got the delay game, I think everybody but Miles Price swapped out, and freshman Daniel Ndukwe just smother. He could have carried the punter into the end zone if he wanted to. Yeah.
That's a tough punt. 2 touchdowns. I mean, that would have been one of the crazier things to ever happen, but crazy things happen in college football all the time. So
saw it last night in Alabama, Georgia.
Yeah, to punt down 2 touchdowns. They had 1:10 left, I think, or 1:09, whatever it was. Obviously, a very uphill battle there, but that's a tough punt because if you don't get it, I still think IU's kneeling anyway. So
yeah.
I don't know. That's tough. So but you could definitely see, and I'll come back to kind of the punt, but IU, I think, wore them down. And
they did. It started right from the beginning of the game. And they knocked one of Octavian Smith out on a kickoff. He limped off, I think, on the first kickoff from IU. You knocked out a linebacker as well, and then they just the running backs created a couple face mask penalties. Defensive line created a couple holdings, and the IU offensive line there was Jared Kelly at Peaks did a breakdown. There was one play where Drew Evans blocked like 4 dudes on Justice Ellison's touchdown run. So and Bucksurf said this on the radio broadcast, I think against UCLA. In the past, IU has had to match the physicality of the other team, and now it's the other team's going to have to step up to IU, and they're making people quit. Maryland at the end of when they turned it over on that last 4th down, they were done.
Yeah, and I think that the punt obviously is one decision, but speaks to they were done, and they were physically beaten down, mentally beaten down, down 2 scores on down 2 scores on the scoreboard, and just didn't want Billy Edwards to take another shot and punted. And I thought you could really see, I think early IU struggled definitely in pass protection off the right side. So Trey Wettig's side at right tackle there. They did struggle in the first half. I think Rourke got sacked, like 3 or 4 times in the game. They had right around, I saw somewhere like 10 pressures total, which I think in a Big Ten game, that's pretty good. I mean, give up 10 pressures. Rourke obviously can stand in the pocket. He's a tall guy. He's an experienced guy. He's been pretty solid against the blitz so far this season, or against pressure. But offensive line definitely settled in, and I think at the end of the game, 3rd quarter, 4th quarter, those running plays in the first half that you're like, man, that was close, or almost popped that one, or keep giving it to him. Like you could kind of feel it coming. And in the second half, offensive line, especially in the run game, I thought really did a nice job imposing their will, moving piles forward, opening up holes. And yeah, that Ellison touchdown in the 3rd quarter, great example of that. And then
the Lawson one at the end too.
Yeah. And then Tyson comes in and runs a couple guys over. They ran that one play out of like I don't even know what you call it, like the wing or the something, like I don't know. It was like a modified T formation almost. They ran that one out on 4th down to Lawton. He got a first down there. So offensive line, I thought, really stepped up in the second half. I thought you saw much better attention to detail, guys executing, guys playing sharper in the second half. So whatever they're doing at halftime so far this season seems to work. It seems messages are delivered, schemes are tweaked, and players are more focused coming out into the 3rd quarter there. So that was good to see again. First time all season, I think, actually, that IU was the team to score last in the first half and not give up points right before halftime. So that was good to see, because that had kind of been a problem for IU heading into halftime there. So, yeah, overall, I think really solid offensive line for me. Big story. Rourke threw the ball overall really nicely after those first kind of 2 drives. Finishes just south of 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Then he could have had that Miles Price touchdown to start the game. Was technically a running play because it was behind the line, but easily could have been a touchdown pass as well. So 22 of 33, 359, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks for Rourke, and he was sacked 3 times. So pretty good. Obviously, you can't be -4 in the turnover category moving forward. That's going to be a really bad recipe to keep winning games here. But you turn the ball over 4 times and you won by 2 touchdowns. So overall, a lot to like. But yeah, I thought offensive line, at least on offense for me, big story besides Rourke settling back in there.
Yeah, and then you saw Elijah Surratt have a breakout game too.
Yeah.
He looked like a dude out there. And it's been a different guy every week in the receiver corps and in the running back room.
Mm-hmm.
Who steps up. Today it was Elijah Surratt and Omar Cooper Jr., who had his touchdown catch right before halftime was Awesome. And then you finally got McCauley in there. It basically just ran a post route out of the slot and
Yeah.
beat his guy. He made a nice little shimmy move. So we'll see going forward what his role is, but it's been a different guy. It's been Miles Cross, Miles Price, Omar Cooper, Elijah Surratt on Saturday. You've had Zach Horton in the passing game. He made a terrific catch. He is doing all the dirty work things on offense that you need to do, and you wish he had another year. He doesn't, but you wish he did.
Who knows?
Alex, what was
maybe he got a double COVID injury, redshirt, transfer portal season. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Where do you think the game turned? I couldn't pick a particular play that stood out, but there was a sequence between, I think, like with 4 minutes left of the third quarter to about 4 minutes left of the fourth quarter, where IU just went on a 3-touchdown run and put the game away. Is that where it turned, or did it turn in the first half a little bit?
Yeah, I think I talked about it already. I think that Cooper touchdown in the first half was huge. For me, though, it's after you score, and then on the very next play, Maryland goes 75-yard touchdown, blocked by the ump, whatever. But I mean, it was Pons on a tough angle there against one of the better backs in the country. So, I get he blocked him, but I still think that that's probably a touchdown. But after that, you respond with a touchdown of your own. And I thought going up 28-21 after that, bust and huge play, after you felt like you really gathered the momentum, I thought that was a big story, being able to go right down the field, answer back. And I think from there, really kind of take control of the game. So that really felt like it was where it got dicey. IU hadn't trailed all season. They still have not trailed all season. That game was tied, and it was kind of up in the air right there. And I thought being able to go down the field like that was really impressive. So, the offense to me is just, it continues to show new things every week. And just, there's like I don't know how to describe it. Just like, it's very surgical. Like, they know what they want to do. They know who they're trying to scheme open. You can see them set plays up in succession, and it's just really refreshing. And I just think, like, they're not calling plays scared. They're not calling plays to not screw up. Like, I feel like we've seen that in the past, right? Like, let's call plays to be really safe. Let's not screw it up. Let's not put the defense in bad spot. This offense is coming out to, like, play and to score and to move the ball and to take chances. And I think that's what you need if you're going to win games. You can't really play scared, especially if you're Indiana. So that was a big one. Another big one for me, I don't remember the exact time of the game, but you were backed up on your 1 yard line and you hit, I think on first down, about a 20-yard ball to Surratt.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean, that is pretty gutsy, but to get out of the shadow of your own end zone, you drop Rourke about 5 yards deep into IU's end zone. Obviously, safety territory, strip sack territory, and throws a beautiful ball, and Surratt makes a nice catch. So that was kind of a big play as well. And then Miles Price, I think, catching that wheel route, I think it was like 3rd and 9 in the second half. He kind of juggled it a little bit, but was able to keep it and bring that one in. So that was a big play for me as well. But yeah, I think being able to answer right after that Hemby touchdown, that I feel like is when the game really kind of was able to go IU's way.
Yeah. I think that when we've seen it all year, every time that IU has been punched, they've responded, and that's what they did. They didn't there was no back-to-back scores by Maryland. IU was always that half step in front of them on the scoreboard, the whole game. Let's talk about special teams because we don't talk about that enough. And IU is dealing with some special teams issues with their kickoff guy in terms of injuries. IU has lost Alejandro Quintero, who replaced Derek McCormick. They were both out on Saturday. I thought this was something on our matchup to watch, to look at. Maryland has good athletes at kick returner, and I think they ended up putting their punter back at one point, which is
No,
weird.
that was like their
There's
slot.
a punt, their
Same-
slot guy.
Yeah, same number, I think. But yeah. Yeah, he had a couple.
But Quinn Warren was fantastic. Put the ball where he needed to. Nico Radicic, I mean, he's automatic on extra points so far. He's hit his 2 lone field goals. He's done everything you've asked him to do. And then James Evans, you saw him 4 times. He basically doubled his punts on the season last game. 2 over 50 yards. 1 was helped by a long bounce. And then he put 2 inside the 20, which is what you want to see. And then you saw Anderson Kobe down the ball at the 1. And having those guys on special teams, like having guys who are former 4-star guys who played in the SEC, bust their butt on special teams. Anderson Kobe was also on that punt block team too. So he's the buy-in on this team, and you can see it on special teams, has been great. The kickoff coverage was really good. Punt coverage was really good. And guess what? They had an onside kick, and your boy Amari Farrell just jumped on it. There was no, oh my God, what's happening? It was, hey, we're going down. We got hands on the ball. We're covering it, and that's it.
Yep. It was good to see. Again, very competent. They had perfect execution. Amari Farrell didn't wait for the bounce. He just smothered it. Game over. So that was great to see.
Let's move on.
Evans was good too.
Yeah, let's move on to kind of what's on the table. We're almost halfway through the season. Halfway mark will be next week and going into a bye week. And I use a 12.5-point favorite as of recording right now against Northwestern next weekend up in Evanston, where IU hasn't won since 1993. I know they haven't played up there that often since realignment happened in the Big Ten, but that's a wild stat to me too. But now you're ranked in the AP and coaches polls. You're sitting atop of the Big Ten standings. At what point do the college football playoff hopes maybe sneak into the Big Ten title game as some of these guys at the top pick each other off? When can that talk? But and I'm happy to talk about it all the time because we're all Indiana football all the time.
That's right.
So we need something to talk about. But at what point does that start popping up on the radar? And are we there yet? Or is it, hey, beat Northwestern, you go into a bye week, you have a big homecoming game against the Nebraska team that looks beatable?
Yeah, I would say my official status is I am approaching the territory where I will consider thinking about it. So I'm not yet considering it, but I am approaching territory where I will start saying, should I be thinking about college football playoff Indiana or Big Ten title game Indiana?
Have you started your travel fund yet?
Have I started my travel fund yet? No. Would I end up there regardless? Yes. I think a Greyhound to Indy is like $40. So from Chicago, so I figured that one out. I will be at the Northwestern game next weekend, so I'm really excited for that one. Here's where we're at, though. At the end of the year, I think what you'll see is UCLA will end up probably in the bottom 5 of the league. Maryland somewhere in the middle. Obviously, it's great to really take it to both of them. It's not like you won on a fluke or you didn't feel good coming out of those games.
You dominated and controlled the game.
You controlled both the games. You never trailed. You beat the crap out of a team on the road. Like, So that's great. Like, you are definitely a good, solid team. I think towards the end of the year, though, the teams you've beaten in league play so far may not be in the top half. So I think it's early. So that's why at this point I'm
And
excited,
we'll see. We'll
thrilled.
see where
But
the rest of the schedule. I mean,
yeah,
Nebraska they lost a heartbreaker a couple weeks ago. They went up to Purdue. It was what 0-0 at halftime
yeah,
with 2 blocked field goals. And so where are they mentally? Washington does not look like the Washington last year, which is what we expected.
yeah,
Who knows what's going to be with Michigan? Michigan's one dimensional, and once people figure out that, Michigan will always have a talent advantage, but they're going to be one dimensional, and you still have this Connor Stallions storm cloud over them, and now Central Michigan's, I think, quarterback coach just got fired and linked to Connor Stallions being on the sideline at Michigan State. Michigan State too. They got beat up by Ohio State, and then I mean Purdue's looking like a name your score game right now.
yeah. Right.
But good news was that hey, Western Illinois ended their
Yeah, good.
gazillion game losing streak. FIU's back in the win column, and Charlotte held on against Rice. So your non-conference schedule, as weak as it is, picked up 3 wins last week, and I hate talking about resumes. It makes me feel like we're doing college basketball, but that helps your resume a little bit. But yeah, it's
It's too
kind of
early.
pump the brake. It's too early, but you are in the top 25.
Yeah.
And now you could start. Okay, if we beat Northwestern, you're 6-0. If you beat Nebraska, you're sitting at 7-0. You're probably somewhere in the top 15, and that's probably my cutoff. If you could get into the top 15, then you could talk about okay, we have a shot. I mean, IU in 2020 was 12th, and they couldn't get into a New Year's Six bowl. And there's been a lot of I mean, there's been a lot of shakeups. Miami almost lost. ACC made a business decision there. Louisville lost to Notre Dame. That pumps up Notre Dame. Also, might take ACC out of another spot. We'll see what happens with the SEC. You have 3 very good teams in Georgia, Alabama, and Texas. And then what happens at the top of the Big Ten? Who's that third team? Does Penn State get in? Can they win a big game under James Franklin? We'll see.
Yeah, love it. Very interested in it. Of course, I've been following all the scores and all the action around the country, like I always do. Bit too early for me. Like I saw a ton of stuff on Twitter today of FPI and ESPN guys slotting us in at 10 and 11 in the field.
There's like a 38% chance of them making the playoff, which it changes so much. IU beat Western Illinois by 74 points, and all of a sudden FPI turned every toss-up game into IU winning like at least 75% by 75%. So those numbers fluctuate. I don't like FPI, but hey, they're 5. IU's 5-0. They're 2-0 in the Big Ten, and you just got to play the schedule in front of you. The next one up is at Northwestern. Should be a sellout crowd. I don't know. There's only 15,000 seats, and they moved my tickets from the sideline to the end zone. Probably because they sold more seats than they could. But it'll be a different atmosphere on the lake. It'll pose different challenges. Northwestern's coming off a bye week. It's the second time we've had to play a team coming off a bye week, as UCLA did. But it's a winnable game. Northwestern's offense does not look good, and you would think that IU could score enough points against that defense, to come out on top, and I think it's a much needed bye week. You saw it yesterday, guys were kind of dinged up. Scary moment with Curtis Rourke on the fumble, getting twisted up in the line with like 4 minutes left. Up 2 scores. James Carpenter's limping around. CJ West looked like a mummy on his leg. So that bye week after week 6, I mean, it looks like a perfect time to, hey, hit the restart and get into the meat of the schedule with Nebraska, Washington, um, Michigan, and Michigan State before you get Ohio State or Michigan State, Michigan, another bye week, and Ohio State and Purdue. So get some guys healthy, maybe get some guys back, and prepare. You're going into the Nebraska game off a bye week, and you should be 6-0. That game, IU should sell out the rest of the home games.
Should.
Like,
Absolutely should.
like there's no excuse. You got homecoming with Nebraska, that should be a sellout. Washington was national runner-up last year, that should be a sellout. Michigan is Michigan, that should be a sellout, and it's the bucket game. I don't need to say anything. And it was a really good crowd on Saturday. I really want to credit the students for staying all 4 quarters. It was wet and soaking mist, but they were loud. It was fun. What I don't get, and I don't want to be too negative, like, what are the hundreds of people doing tailgating outside of the stadium? Like, if you're going to watch on TV,
During the
why,
game.
like,
During the
oh
game.
yeah, during the entire game up at the press box, you see in the fields, and in the blue lot 4, there's tens of tailgates with maybe 10, 15 people each. Like, I don't understand it. If somebody wants to explain it to me, like, I'm 5, I don't understand why you make the effort to go down to Bloomington or go up to Bloomington, put all that stuff out when you could just as well grill out at home and watch on TV.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'll never understand it.
I don't get it.
I don't get it.
But
I don't get it. But the goal,
no,
I mean, you have to just keep winning and make it so fun in the stadium that people shame each other. Like, really? You're not going to the game? Like, why aren't you going to the game? Like, that's what needs
yep,
to happen.
and I think Saturday's game against Maryland was that game that you hooked a whole bunch of students.
Yeah.
That you had whatever student, 10, 15,000 students there, they're hooked for homecoming. And you had a nice crowd on the west side of the stadium, they're probably hooked.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Any final thoughts on Maryland heading into Northwestern?
I would just quickly on the fans, I would just say, if you are listening to this right now and you want to go to homecoming and you don't have tickets yet, I would buy them because the Nebraska fans will buy them and they are going to buy them. They travel extremely well. Last time they were in Bloomington, I think 2016, they brought a ton of fans. If you look at shots from the Purdue game yesterday, ton of red in West Lafayette. So if you don't have tickets yet, I would get on that because the Nebraska fans will buy them and they will drive out. So they travel really well, regardless of team record or performance. They'll be there. So buy your tickets, show up, support them. And if you can't make the game, I would try to sell them through like Twitter, or maybe consider donating them to the Hoosier Ticket Project or something. Just don't list them on StubHub or whatever, because that's obviously where a lot of the.
But if IU does sell out and you're an IU fan needing tickets, do go to SeatGeek. Use our SeatGeek code Hoosier Huddle. It's $20 off your first purchase as a new customer. Here's the trick: use your work email and your personal email, and you'll get double the discount on tries and stuff like that. So yeah, as Alex said, Nebraska travels well. You've got 20 days to gobble up those tickets and things like that. And Nebraska's playing well, so they're going to travel to a place they've only been once. So yeah,
I'll be there for that one too. So looking forward to that. Final thoughts, Maryland. You're 5-0. There was a lot, I think, of emphasis, a lot of extra attention, a lot of kind of expectations on this team to come out and play well. And not that you vanquished demons or got rid of all the bad juju, but there were a lot of very classic, like, IU football plays in the game yesterday that every time one of those happened and you said, oh, here we go, same old thing, gonna happen.
Oh,
again.
Yeah, the first interception, second interception, the
Here we go.
75-yard run.
Yeah, blocked
I
by the
think that
the double tipped touchdown, the other tipped catch, the cheek and bound, all this stuff. You're going, here
I
we
mean,
go,
it was
here
yep,
we go.
it's fair to say IU did not get any bounces yesterday in a game where in all of IU football history, you probably go, you turn the ball over 4 times. Maryland got every single bounce went their way, and that's just how it goes.
Mhm.
You would think IU lost 56-3.
Yeah, right. So
They
yeah, that's for me. They won by 2 touchdowns despite all of that, and that's growth, that's culture change, and they've been saying it, and they've been telling you to, hey, trust us, like it's different, and you can see it. And I think a lot of people are waiting to see us play, a competent team to see what would happen, and there you go. Is IU going to go 12-0 and win the Natty? No. So if they lose a game, if they lose a couple games, please don't just jump ship. That's not realistic. Um, yeah, I thought you didn't play your best game in the first half on offense, and the defense was ready to kind of pick up the offense, kind of like golf. If your playing partner's not playing well, like you feel a little extra pressure to play better. The defense did that. They picked up the offense every time they needed to, you know, dig out of a hole. And then I think in the second half, the offense said, all right, it's our time. Let's put this game away. And really kind of let on the offensive line to do that. So for me, it was a very complimentary game. All 3 phases played pretty well. Turnovers, obviously a massive issue, and I know something they'll want to correct. But yeah, you can't turn the ball over 4 times, not turn the other team over and expect to win in conference play. It's just not going to happen. So I think that's even more impressive, though. Really sloppy. Gave them four extra possessions, and still won by 2 scores. So lots to be happy with. Seemed like everybody came out healthy as well. So yeah, all eyes on Northwestern now to go 1-0 on the road, and then get a bye week to kind of stay focused, calm down, rest up a little bit. So yeah, really impressive game. I would say the 2 most dominant players on the field yesterday were probably Elijah Surratt and Mikhail Kamara. Kamara, I think, only had the 1 sack or 1.5 sacks, but he was in the backfield on literally every snap. Like he was in,
Yeah.
no one could block him. And I know the numbers aren't going to jump out from his game, but he literally was in the backfield like 90% of his snaps. Run or pass, didn't matter. No, they could not block him at all. Totally dominated the game, changed, I think, what they wanted to do on offense. Yeah, because Edwards, I think IU had 4 sacks total or 5.
Yeah, but they put him on the ground a ton.
He was on the ground 15, 20 times. I mean, they were just all over him all game long. So Kamara was unreal on defense, and then Surratt on offense. He had the contested balls. He was running himself open with routes. He was showing change of direction. He was fighting for yards after contact. Gets the touchdown on the RPO, but I think he just all around had just a tremendous game. So that was another storyline we heard in the offseason. Blah, blah, blah. They're just taking all these Sun Belt guys. None of these guys can play in the Big Ten, blah, blah, blah. Those are the 2 best players on the field yesterday were the James Madison guys. So Aiden Fisher led the team in tackles again with 12. He's done that every week. Jalen Walker was all over the field. Carpenter had 2 sacks. The guys can play, and I think we've established that at this point. But that was kind of one storyline I wanted to put to bed from the offseason was, they couldn't actually get any real players. They just took all the crappy guys from the Sun Belt. So
give me my G5 All-Star team. They have a chip on their shoulder. They're playing like it. They're well coached. They're they have plenty of willpower to follow that coaching. So hey, good. Let's see what they could do. Now, can they stand up to that every single week? We'll see.
Yeah.
You got
it'll be interesting too. I think kind of in Sig's post game interview on the field, they asked what makes this team so good or special. I forget how they actually phrased it. And one of the things he said was they're very moldable and coachable. So I think not that he had bad attitudes last year, but I think maybe not a we before, or a me before we attitude. But yeah, they all kind of seem bought into their roles at this point, which is good. Everybody's kind of celebrating everybody because, especially on offense, like I think they all know at this point they're going to get the ball, right? So it's like you root for the other guy because you know you're going to get in, and you will also put numbers up. And I think that's cool. Like you can definitely see it on the sideline, everybody going crazy when McCulley scored. So yeah, impressive for the most part. But now you head into, and the other thing Signetti said was this team does a good job of not getting too high or too low. Very steady, one play at a time. You're ranked.
Yep.
You have expectations. More people will be watching you, and you have to hit the road after a big win where your coach was texting and emailing the fan base. People were saying, come to the game. People were saying, this is different. You check that box. You won that game in impressive fashion. Now you have expectations, and now people are looking at you. You're ranked in both polls. People are talking about the playoff. People are talking about Indianapolis. Now you got to block that out and win on Saturday.
Yeah, and it's luckily the game's at 3:30. It's not on cat time at 11 a.m. local, and things like that. Where Northwestern has beaten some teams in that sleepy. They just play classical music. It's just like, man, it just lulls you to sleep, and then they catch you off guard. But it's going to be an atmosphere that they have not played in yet. It's a smaller, more intimate stadium. It's on the lake. There's no protection from the wind. We'll see what the wind does and the weather does. When Duke played up there early in the season, it was blowing pretty well, and it affected field goals and scoring and things like that. So we'll see. So games 3:30 kickoff, Big Ten Network. IU, the 23rd ranked Indiana Hoosiers go up to Northwestern, place they haven't won since 1993, looking to go 6-0, become bowl eligible, and then head into a bye week. So keep it tuned into HoosierHuddle.com, at Hoosier_Huddle on Twitter. If you're looking for homecoming tickets, hit up the IU Athletics website as soon as possible because those tickets will be gobbled up. I think there's under 7,000 or around 7,000 tickets left. Go grab those before the Nebraska fans do. So thanks for listening. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday night, and we'll talk. We'll do our Northwestern preview on Thursday.